Player-centric.
Yes. Okay. Welcome back. Welcome back to Who the Heck Are We? I think we're in episode 16?
Dami na.
16 na. No? Can you believe that? Anyway.
More than 10.
15. Season 2, episode 2.
Season 2, episode 2. But basically, we're in episode 15. Yeah. So with me right now is, of course, the three wonderful boys, Jay De La Cruz, Claro Manzano, and Lawrence, who's actually using a takeout headset.
Yeah.
if you wanna order cheeseburger or.
So I'm taking orders right now. I went from McDonald's to borrow this.
Pwede rin, galing kay Britney Spears.
No, if I may just share with the audience like what I'm sharing to you a while ago. I did not know why I bought this earlier today. I don't know. Sometimes you have impulse buys, and then you'll need it down the road. And this is one of the purchases that essentially I needed down the road because my laptop is not working. Zoom is not cooperating with the laptops. That's the better term. Of all the programs that had to mess up at this moment that we are recording, Zoom pa talaga. Everything's working. Chrome, Adobe programs, all working. Pero pag Zoom, for some reason, it does not work. Ayan. So
we're reaching out to Zoom?
Yes, Zoom. Ayan. So panimulang bati na sa Zoom if you can send some contingencies. I would definitely appreciate it. Kunwari sikat kami, ganyan. Pero well,
importante magkakasama pa rin tayo.
And that's where our
found
line.
the way. Yes.
Who the heck are we, diba? Okay. So today's topic
we found the way.
Yeah, we're just gonna talk randomly. I want to talk about the old PBA NBA / APBA NBA and to the new era of basketball. Diba? Are we now looking at is the basketball now, or even sports for that matter, player-centric or team organization-centric? We know what happened in, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Lawrence, 2010, LeBron making that decision. I think, right? Diba? I think that whole
the decision,
the whole episode of the decision
to South Beach
changed everything, right? Tama, South Beach. So, Claro, tell me, what is your take on sports nowadays in this modern era? If we could call it modern era, your take on sports? Is it player centric? Is it organization centric, or more owner centric?
Maybe you could say on the surface player centric, because for example, when LeBron did that. If I'm correct, when he was in Cleveland in his first stint, he'd bring a caravan with him to travel with them to away games. But when he was in Miami, none of that. I think it was a rule of Pat Riley. So, but it's a situation here where the players still prevail. This thing of Pat Riley medyo one off. Like, Pat Riley, yeah, medyo one of yun. That's a bit rare to hear because normally they give in to the requests of the players. And then to top it off, in the NBA, we see a lot of movement of players. They don't last as long anymore in one team because back in the day, maybe in the 2000s, when you hear of a trade of this player, a regular role player moving somewhere, it's already a big deal. You have to get used to them wearing a different jersey. Unlike now, I don't know, how many jerseys does Jimmy Butler have? My Chicago Bulls Jimmy Butler jersey shirt became obsolete after like a year. So at least retro jersey na yun. But bottom line, player-centric, they pretty much get to opt out and say, I want to go here. And in a sense, naging kampihan na. They try to lure each other to the respective teams. I think you can say that also with collegiate basketball, with the movement that we have been seeing lately. So that's my take.
All right. Jay's laughing. Sige, Jay. Ikaw naman.
I
want to go from professional, actually from the NBA, from international. Let's focus on the NBA because that's where our forte is, right? Even we could even talk about football or European football, no? But let's go from the international, the NBA European football, and then later on, as this podcast goes along, we could talk about the PBA, and then eventually tackle the collegiate issues that's happening now. So Jay, sige, what's your take on the NBA or the international sports?
Sasabihin ko na sana, I hope Claro does not mention what is happening sa collegiate basketball, but he did. Anyways, sa NBA kasi, you have to understand that not all the players are that gifted to masabi natin na, or are not blessed to get their demands done by the team, di ba? There are only a handful of players who can do that. Sama na si LeBron James. More recently, Kawhi Leonard did it, di ba? So, if you look at the perspective of these players na bakit nila nagagawa, bakit ganito sila? It's like they're having this certain demands within themselves na iniisip din nila on their perspective, iniisip din nila yung kapakanan ng team. For example, let's have this Kawhi case. Ano yung sabi ni Kawhi bago siya pumunta sa Clippers? Diba? He wanted, very basic lang, I wanted another superstar, diba? I wanted another all-star. I want another blue chip player. Kasi at the back of his head, sinasabi niya rito sa Clippers organization, kay Steve Ballmer, if you give me this guy, you give me this guy, then we're gonna work with this coach, with Doc Rivers, gonna give you a championship. Diba? Yun yung palagi offer ng ng mga players din. Although, on the outside, it might look really player-centric, pero if you're gonna focus on the player itself, diba, he also wanted to give a championship dun sa team na pupuntahan niya. However, you gotta think din na pag nanalo sila ng championship, siya rin mananalo, diba? And it's like na, for lack of a better term, it's also a way to masasabi natin na boost his credential. That's a good term. Boost his credential na wherever I go, I have this certain impact to a team and I can bring championships. So on the outside, doon sa mga nagsasabi ng player-centric, lalo lang magiging mapapatunayan yung pagiging player-centric ng ilang mga players ngayon or ilang mga teams or like in the NBA.
Okay. Sige, Lance, do you have any... We would like to order cheeseburger from you, so...
Do you have any order? Do you want fries with that?
May kasama pang foul.
May kasama pang foul. Ketchup.
May kasamang foul, tsaka 4 na pack ng ketchup na inuuwi sa bahay. Anyway, we're all guilty with that. Anyway, NBA right now, without a doubt, it's the age of mobility in the NBA. At parang yung benchmark nga ng pagsisimula ng so-called age of mobility is the decision. Imagine you are essentially answering one question, but you stretch the special for 2 hours. Yeah, you can argue the fact that the ads were the proceeds of the ads were donated to the Boys and Girls Club and so and so. Pero that special alone, aside from the fact that it made the NBA more mobile in terms of where a player would like to play. They have now more power because of free agency also and the skyrocketing salaries. Pero that moment, the decision, it was like the turning point of the NBA from being organization-centric to essentially player-centric because it's the players now, essentially, who are building teams. LeBron is the one who constructed the Lakers. Well, you can argue that Rob Pelinka to some extent, sino lang ba talaga yung draft ni Rob Pelinka sa Lakers ngayon? It was LeBron who recruited Anthony Davis. It was LeBron who recruited KCP.
Tampering Anthony Davis.
In a way, tampering. Well, previously, in a way, it was the players of the Warriors who recruited Kevin Durant when he went there. So, it's more of a player-centric league now sa NBA. And you can also say the same thing with European football. However,
Mhm.
you cannot say I cannot say the same thing with the other major sports leagues like NFL, NHL, and MLB. It's more of team-centric pa rin yung leagues na yun eh.
Yeah.
Kasi, especially with the NFL, kasi you have 53 players in your roster and there's a lot of talent that can replace somebody.
That's correct.
In
Yeah.
the
Exactly.
NBA kasi, and also, one of the differences is NFL, the players are in pads, in shields, so you don't really see them when they play. You don't really know their faces once they play. Sa NBA, kitang-kita mo kasi tank top lang tsaka shorts eh. So for the entire 48 minutes, you know who Giannis is, you know who Draymond is, and without a doubt, it's the personality that drives the popularity of the league.
That's
Kaya now, it's really player-centric. It's not detrimental that it's player-centric, pero the shift, there's just a shift of power from ownership to player. Ownership na nanliligaw ngayon. Dati kasi parang, ano eh, sige punta ako doon kasi maganda yung owner, magaling yung coach ngayon. Parang you can go to a place you want and then hire the people that you want in your team, like the Kevin Loves or the Kyrie Irvings, to
correct.
build a championship team in a new place kasi you have the power. So player-centric na talaga ngayon.
Yeah. And just to add also, for me, it's like, Claro, I'll get to you regarding your football, but load management, is that a player-centric move, power shift, or is it a organizational uh, decision? Who-
Both.
Both. Okay, sige, Claro, you go ahead. Sige. Di ba, honestly, is it an organizational or is it a player player decision? Sige,
I
Claro.
think I think it became like a middle ground because if you're the team, you want your players to play every single time. But if you do that, maybe there's the risk of whether it be fatigue or burnout, especially for the old players. So you do that. You want to meet the players, the demands of the players. Sometimes you just want to take a night off. And as a team, you also want to take care of your assets. Like I think when Shaq went to Phoenix, one of his many teams after in the latter part of his career, they were saying something like Shaq's not gonna do back to backs because of because he's already old. But um, I don't know if this counts. Well, maybe it can count. This was load management before load management became the thing. Yao Ming. How many times did he break his foot or get a leg injury? So maybe the second time they brought him back, they said maybe for the first 20 games of the season or so, Yao will only play a maximum of 24 minutes because they don't want to strain his foot.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But ding ding ding, what happened in the first game? Kalaban ng Houston Rockets, Lakers. So Yao ended up playing about 38, 40 minutes because they were chasing the win. Because it's against the Lakers and they were two top teams also back then. Well, the Rockets aren't exactly in the top now, but you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about there.
yeah.
So that's how I see it.
Okay. Lawrence?
I would have to agree with Claro. It's a combination of organization and player. Well, before it used to be cool whenever you see the box score of the San Antonio Spurs, and then you would see Robert Ory's his stat line is DNP old or Tim Duncan, and nobody would complain because they are indeed old. So essentially, that's load management. Pero
Yeah.
nobody took it against Greg Popovich because, well, that's his way of resting his players. It's a long season. He has old players, so they have to pace themselves through 82 games, plus let's say another 15 or 20 games in the postseason. So at
In the
least
playoffs, yeah.
100 games. So they have to find games during the regular season wherein they can set their best players and let them rest because it's a long stretch. They are gearing up for the long stretch, the higher price, so to speak.
Correct.
Now, the load management right now has become questionable. At the same time, you can criticize it easier. Best example. Best example na rin is a former Spur is Kawhi Leonard with what happened to him. Na in a way, uh, his uncle was his spokesperson, and his uncle was saying all of this sort of stuff, that he is injured, although there was no medical certification whatsoever released that he was really under that injury. So in a way, it's player centric.
Mm.
But in some ways, when a player is cleared to play, they don't want to risk playing him also immediately. It's just asterisk that Kevin Durant played in the finals last year, even though he had that bad ankle. They
Yeah.
needed it. They need him to win, to extend their dynasty. So sometimes it also falls upon the organization to weigh in the situation of their player, the status, and then they assess if he's ready to go, or they will have to sit him for a number of games. So it's a combination of organization and player for load management.
Okay, Jay, you have anything to say about load management?
Uh, for me, it started as an organization-centric decision. Nakwento ni Lance yung Greg Popovich story na yung box scores DNP old. Tapos, there's also this one huddle that was recorded on camera that Tony Parker was actually complaining Greg Popovich would sit him the entire fourth quarter, and Tony Parker, sabi niya, na if he plays this entire fourth quarter, I would have only played 26 minutes in total, and I'm 29 years old. Sabi ni Greg Popovich, no, sit down. Diba? So, in the past, it was an organizational-centric decision. Kawhi Leonard tried to make it a player-centric decision, pero with the disaster that happened with the LA Clippers, I think the load management side will remain an organization-centric decision. Why? Because these players, if they have the option, maglalaro yan. Look at superstars like Giannis Antetokounmpo. He played all the games of the season right here. Walang pumigil sa kanya. Look at the Golden State Warriors. Even they're hurt, bigyan ng pagkakataon, bigyan ng opportunity maglalaro yan. Ano lang ang ginagawa ng organization para lang mapagbigyan yung mga players na gusto maglaro, na talagang kating-kating maglaro? It's either pagdating ng second quarter, third quarter, tambak na, panalo na Golden State, fourth quarter, wala na maglalaro sa starters na yan. Diba? So, you have also to remember that these players na sabihin natin, talagang gustong-gusto talaga nila maglaro ng basketball, and yung parang salitang kanto na adik sila maglaro ng basketball, then every opportunity they will get, maglalaro talaga sila. So, if they have the choice, they definitely play. So, that's for me na that decision of load management is gonna be really organization-centric. Although, there are contracts that states na ang mga player is only played to allow the certain level of minutes or a minimum of this number of minutes, di ba? So, again, if players have the choice, then play.
Okay. So,
Speaking of
parang
that-
both nga. Okay, Claro. So, ito, in football, is there, okay, tell me your thoughts on the football. You wanted to mention something about football. Also in football, you type in load management. Is there such thing as load management in football? In European football, not American
Okay.
football.
First, I haven't typed it, to be honest. But
Okay.
just one thing to spin off from load management in basketball before you head to football.
Sige.
The downside there is, what if you fly thousands of miles to see LeBron or Giannis play, and they're not playing? Load management.
That's what the
Sayang
players
yung
think.
experience.
Oh.
Sayang yung experience. So that's
Yeah.
one downside. We totally get it in the fatigue side and player health and everything, precautions, but that's just one downside that the fans could get.
Yeah, that's one thing that the
Affected in a way.
NBA was trying to weed out.
Yeah.
Those
Mhm.
dubious sitting out of games for no apparent reason, not necessarily medical reasons or physical reasons.
Yeah. So to wrap it up, if you're gonna watch an NBA game, you watch it early in the season when teams are pushing to bump up their win tally.
To get into the playoffs, di ba?
Yeah. Like
Mm.
I got to see James Harden fake a foul and successfully get 2 free throws. Yung mga ganun. Got to see John Wall. This
Ay,
and
lalo
that.
na pag may eliminate sila.
Essentially, before the All-Star break, all of those games, those are still bearing games usually. Like games
Yeah.
1 to 50. After the All-Star break, that's the time that
Oo.
the worst teams start to tank. The
Mhm.
best teams try to pace their best players because they are gearing up for the home stretch already, which is the playoffs.
Correct.
So yeah, you're right about that. Na
Yeah.
early in the season, you'll catch these players play at their best, and then towards the tail end, dyan na nagkakaroon ng chess
Kawhi,
match in terms of
si Kawhi
personnel.
Leonard, hindi naman ganun ang ginawa. Si Kawhi, fifth game into the season, load management ka.
Hindi naman nangyari. Oh, sige. Oh, Claro, go.
All right.
Claro,
So
go ahead.
for football, you could say that load management was there in a way already. When do you see it? When you have a top team going up against a bottom ranked team, they'll start
Yeah.
rotating their players. But there are several reasons why it seems more acceptable and valid as compared to basketball.
Correct. Yeah.
First, in football, you only have 3 substitutions at the professional level. So you can only sub 3 players out. And everyone else, okay, you guys, you're going to have to slug it out for 90 minutes. There's a sprint, there's sprinting, and there's jogging. Halos non-stop yun. So that's how it is. So maybe you see you're going up against a lower team, a lower ranked team, maybe somewhere in the Cup or the FA Cup. Okay, they'll rest some players here and there. But you will still get to see the core of that team play, nonetheless. Maybe you can put it into perspective that a player like I know who's this? Like Mo Salah will be playing, but Virgil won't. Things like that.
Yeah.
Or Virgil's most likely to be kept in while they're resting Salah because defense, of course, is a bit more tricky. Liverpool have more options in the attacking end, so that's how I could see it. And Lagare, okay, we know that NBA that they're playing continuous games.
Right.
But in football, you're playing in the league, you're playing in the cup, and then sometimes there's still another cup tournament, so there's an extra 2. And then if you have a very strong, and if you're a top team, you play Champions League football, you play AFC Cup, AFC Champions League. So that's the perspective. Sometimes you're in Champions League and you'll see that teams aren't playing their best 11. Reason there is they're focusing on the league because they want to place high enough in the league to make sure that they make it to Champions League. So in that situation, they were somewhat thinking in the long term rather than, okay, let's try to win the league now and it's okay if we don't make it next year. But of course, you want to play in the Champions League every year. You attract talent.
Correct.
And that's also more income.
So it's essentially an organizational decision pa rin, no? When it comes to load management sa football kasi you're playing in these multiple leagues and talagang you have to pace your players, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's completely different from the NBA. A bit different.
Totally different. Except for Neymar, of course. It's like when it's Neymar, it looks like player-centric.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If
From,
you're
tama.
Pero everything else, it's organization.
Everything is organization, and because I think it's because of the way football is in Europe. There's a club, so if you're starting in the club,
you are juggling with multiple leagues at once, eh. And then if there's an international friendly with some of your players, then there's that match pa. So it's like a overlap of leagues, eh. NBA 82 games, pero kasi you'll also look at the dynamics din of the game. Football covers or has a bigger venue than basketball, eh. So a 48-minute basketball game, parang if you calculate the miles or the kilometers, it's still nothing to the 90 minutes of football kung pabalik-balik kang ganyan. So the wear and tear is higher in terms of rate than basketball. And also, let me add, one sport na load management is really an organizational decision, no doubt, is baseball, especially with pitchers. Especially those that especially those that came from Tommy John surgery, they really have innings restrictions. Like Stephen Strasburg had like 200 innings restriction, and then that's it for the entire season.
Hindi na siya
So
pwede
they
mag-start.
really,
Hindi na siya pwede mag-start.
yun nga yung ano dun eh, yun nga yung
That's true.
confusing doon. They made the playoffs, naubos na yung 200 niya. So they really didn't play him. They were really strict. The organization was really strict with the 200 innings with him.
Yeah, I asked some baseball friends actually about that thing because they have so many pitchers. And so I
Relievers,
asked,
they have a lot.
Oh, you only
Kasi
have
lima lang
5
ang mag-start
starting.
dun eh.
Yeah. You only
Yeah.
have 5 starting pitchers.
yeah, but that's a lot. It's not like you have 5 point guards in one team, diba?
But
On a security agency ka.
But a baseball team essentially plays like 7 games in 7 days din eh. Sunod-sunod din ang mga games nila.
Yeah.
So,
They have,
Usually
they
they
have a
play
series.
2 games in one day. One in the morning and one in the evening. They have days like those.
Yeah.
And in the 162 games, they have one in the morning, one in the evening, and then they fly away, do the same thing again. So
Yeah. And
See-
one thing that my baseball friends were also saying is these injuries are serious in the arm.
yes,
Oh
If
gosh.
you-
especially
oh,
If you
Especially-
don't take care of yourself. Yeah.
especially Tommy John. That's why at post game press conferences, you see their pitching hand ice, pitching
Yeah.
arm ice.
Yeah.
ito.
Kasi
Yeah.
they really need it. It's not for aesthetics or it's not for drama. It's really for the science, for
Correct.
serving
Oh, yeah.
their pitching
And they're
arm.
insured, and their arms are insured.
Yes.
Yes.
They're insured. So
Tama yun.
yeah.
Sometimes to the millions for the best
To
ones.
the millions in insurance ng pitchers for their arms. Yun.
Because surgery can wreck your form. And like
Oh gosh, yeah.
career ending talaga. You won't be
You
the
lose
same.
you lose your velocity when you don't recover well from, let's say, a Tommy
Mhm.
John surgery, because your joint, your
It's
siko,
separated, diba?
it doesn't put the same weight if not operated well. Eh doon pa naman nanggagaling yung parang ikot ng bola from here sa siko. So
Yeah.
if you don't treat it like how it was before the injury, that's why it can end careers Tommy John, if not treated well.
But what's with baseball, you know who's gonna pitch. Medyo predictable yung load management in a way.
Kasi may sila, it's a cycle eh.
Yeah, it's a cycle. So, okay, there weren't too many fans in Dodger Stadium in this one game that I watched during lockdown just to learn a bit more, to listen to Vince Scully, the GOAT. And he said, okay, today's attendance is X amount of players, and we can expect to fill it up even more when Clayton Kershaw will pitch the next day. They knew already that he was going to pitch. That the usual starters were going to hit the mound. Yeah.
So from what I'm hearing from you guys, it's really the NBA that's more of a player-centric organization. If you talk about international sports, tama?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one quick thing with football also. Well, NBA kasi, an individual can change a team entirely. In football, that's not really the case because it's 11 aside. It's really more of team play. You're in a bigger area. So I think because of the nature of the game, the players don't have as much power. But the superstars have power when it comes to transfers.
Yes.
But-
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you copy paste what Sir Jay said. Maybe the role players, the bench players, those guys don't really have as much say on where they want to go. These guys just take what opportunities they have.
That's true. That's very true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pero the byproduct then of that one is the median salary increases also for the mid-level players. Imagine, I remember this vividly. Alan Krabby was offered an $80 million contract in the NBA. $80 million
18
for a
billion.
Alan
mid-level player. Mid-level player to.
Oh,
So that goes to show that once the top tier players get their money,
It
it
goes
gets
up.
trickled down also to
Yeah.
the role
infectious.
players. So yung parang base salary mo ngayon, it's not the same way like even 3 or 5 years ago. Talagang tumataas siya. So nabibiyayaan din sila doon sa tier na yon kasi tumataas din yung sahod nila.
That's actually a good topic that I want to tackle. No? Should athletes be paid this much?
Long pause. Long
Silent.
pause.
Should they be? Yeah, long pause. Like, like the one of Messi. What was that? How much
It's
billion?
$1 billion.
Billion.
Billion. And then we have what's in the football? The Kansas Chief. What's his name?
Patrick Mahomes. Yeah,
Patrick
like
Mahomes.
Mahomes.
21
450. Yeah, like close
half
to
a
500
billion.
million.
Half a billion.
Oh, I will
Quarterback.
say,
Should these players be paid this much?
Well, to start off, athletes are entertainers.
Okay.
Diba? Yeah. Because first is they do it at a high level. Okay, yeah, you see Cristiano Ronaldo and a bunch of other guys in tiny shorts running and kicking a ball around. That's what they will say.
Yeah.
But you have to understand that they operate at such a high level. Oh yeah, they look like normal people. But what if you get a normal person? Put someone like me in an NBA court. You'll see, oh, bano talaga, di ba? You look at the worst, pluck out the worst player in the NBA or the UAAP. I'm telling you, you put them in a park pickup game, and they will own it.
Yeah.
Legit. They will be the Michael Jordan. So
Right.
I think the pay is justified in a sense that these guys are superhuman.
Yeah.
That they have that level. Not everyone can reach that level.
Yeah.
They truly stand out.
Right.
These guys aren't average Joes. But I know that you hear of these things from, you call them anti-sports, or people don't really appreciate sports to say that money should go elsewhere. But
Right.
To give credit also, these athletes, they use their platform, they use their money also to come up with foundations to change lives.
Yep.
Ang dami. That's a long, countless list.
Okay. Jay?
here's my take about players' pay. It's actually fault na organization to eh. If they do something, if pag nauwi sa overpaying an athlete. Because here's the thing. The organization and the player, it should be clear. The organization should make it clear that he's paying this X amount to a player to do this. And that player will stick to that kind of job. Classic example dito, again, my favorite sports movie, Moneyball.
Okay. Yeah.
Ask Brad Pitt or Billy Bean told this player, I'm paying you to get to first base, not to get out on this, not to be tagged out in the second base. So he made those roles clear sa mga players. And that is something I think NBA owners and general managers should emulate when it comes to paying their players. Diba? I'm paying you this X million amount of cash to do this to me, to play defense for me, to hit the big shots for me, to lead my team. That should be clear. Para matigil yung mga dumping contracts, overpaid and underachieving, di ba? Players na pinagpipiesta ng mga kritiko eh. And as a fan din, di ba? Mapapakamot ka na ng ulo. I mean, ba't ganito itong player na to? Kala ko 20 million ay hirap binabayad dito, pero ba't ganito maglaro? Di ba?
Okay.
So, that's the thing. So, organization and players, they have to be clear when it comes to pay and their roles.
Okay.
Bakit sila binabayaran?
Not trying to bash. I have one player in mind, NBA, but that's all I'll say for now.
Ikaw, Lance.
I have a lot of players in my mind, actually.
There are a lot of
Ikaw, Lance,
there
before
are a
I
lot of
put my
prayers.
take on this. Sige. Go, Lance.
Kala ko yung Moneyball yung kay Mara Aquino. Anyway,
Ayan na tayo.
dribble of the people, di ba?
Dribble.
That's classic. I just missed that segment anyway. There's
Lagay
just
nga sa
two
bubble.
words. There's two words that I will bank on my entire take on this one. Number one, leverage. Number two, agents. Leverage. So during the negotiation period, the organization looks at what the player has done recently. And it just so happened, like, let's say in the NFL, somebody was named Super Bowl MVP because they got 2 interceptions. Then that player has the leverage to get a higher contract because hey, this is what I did recently. So that is an unfair occurrence, pero that's how negotiations work anyway. You have one side as a leverage, and that's why they get to dictate the demands that they would like. And also, come to think of it, when it comes to leverage, everything, all of this, it boils down to a collective bargaining agreement. All of this is so it's the fault of both sides, both the league, the owners, and the players also, because they all agreed to it.
Correct.
That's
Yeah.
the structure that they base all contracts from. And also, mind you, when you see a player, let's say, paid 100 million, the fine line there is like 30% goes to tax, and sometimes it's incentive driven. So if they don't hit certain conditions, they don't get the entire money. So
Mm.
yun yung misconception kasi minsan na makita natin sa Diaryo or sa any website like this player signed for 150 million for let's say 5 years. Akala kagad natin, wow, 30 million a year. Pero yun nga, we don't see the IRS, the taxes, the 401ks, the benefits, and yun nga, some of these contracts are so incentive laden na for some reason, if the player doesn't hit the incentive, then that's another 100,000 or another like few millions away from the contract. So,
Yung cut pa
yun
ng
din yung,
agent.
yun nga yung isa, di ba? Cut ng agent. And also, the agent's ability to sell the player. Then, ano yun the most notorious agent that I can really think of all sports, is Scott Boras.
So, akala
Scott
ko sabi mo,
Boras,
Jerry Maguire. So, okay.
show me the money.
Sabi mo, Tanya Espiritu.
Show me the money!
Show me the money. Di ba?
Congratulations, you're still my agent. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, I must have watched that film like 3 times or even more.
It's a
Kaya
good-
kabisado ko yung
good
linyang
movie.
yun. Pero it's a good movie. It's a good
Yeah.
movie.
You had me at
Yeah.
hello. Yung mga ganun.
Si Jesus Shuttlesworth din agent trying to make him turn pro
Actually,
early.
that was cheesy. Yung you had me at hello. Pero well, I was young then, so it caught me emotionally. I must admit. I watched it on DVD borrowed from Video City. Kaya, so that's how young I was.
The leverage.
Ayun.
VHS.
Agents
agent.
there are some agents that are very crafty in selling their players. Scott Boras, for example, he was the first agent in the MLB who negotiated that his players are worth 9 figures. Dati it's unheard of in MLB. He was really the guy that is selling the team like the Bryce Harpers or the Strasburgs. That's why like siguro frankly 1/4 of the MLB is Scott Boras
Wow.
the players.
Really, ah?
Yeah, but
So
mga
today-
ganyan roughly.
Hanggang ngayon?
Up to today, yes.
Up to
That's
now,
how
yes.
crafty he is.
Alright.
Because
Wow.
he has this ability to jack up your price for
He
some
knows how to
reason.
sell. Kumbaga.
He knows how to sell. He has the leverage. He knows how to play with the leverage. And that's why player salaries go up. And now the benchmark in MLB is like 300 million si Stanton. And now MLB, sa NFL, it's Mahomes for like 450 million.
Please.
Because that's agent driven also. They know how to sell these players.
Yeah.
And most of them are also litigators, are attorneys. So they really fight you for every provision. Ayoko nito, dagdagan natin. So that's how the money adds up. Bakit ganito lang tong amount na to na incentive? Taasan natin yan.
Yeah.
Bakit ganito lang tong amount na to? Ano yan? He will fight for this incentive. Parang it's correlated to the team success also. So bakit ganyan lang yung reward? So ganyan sila lumaban ng agents. That's why leverage and agents, that's why skyrocketing ang salaries in all major sports of this moment.
So, parang
honors
hindi
naman
ata
ako
yung
doon.
natin, job natin, no? Dapat din tayo podcasters. Dapat agents tayo, no? Sports agents.
Actually, NBA has the most confusing salary cap of all the 4 sports. MLB, NFL, and NBA. Major League Soccer, madali pang intindihin Yung
Yeah,
NBA
madali.
talaga kasi yung soft cap ng NBA, that's very tricky. You have like a mid-level exception.
Mid-level.
Mm.
Yeah, you have the bird rights and all.
Yeah.
Yun yung pinaka madugo sa lahat eh.
Then you
NFL
could
But
hard
go-
others
cap.
have hard cap.
Oh,
Ah.
NFL hard cap.
Hard cap. Yeah, may hard cap.
Oo.
You
NBA
know,
may luxury tax pa, mga ganon. So
NBA
you
kasi
can
you
go
have that,
over.
in
Oo, may
replacement of
luxury
that
tax
hard
ka
cap,
pa.
the luxury tax.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
So it's
You
still
know-
unlimited. So,
Yeah.
kaya yung
Teams
mga
are-
markets, there's a gap in the market eh.
Mhm.
Teams are willing to pay the luxury tax because they know that if they win the finals, they can pay for that luxury tax. It's
Bonus.
Tsaka
fair.
malakas,
Yeah.
tsaka malakas yung market. Malakas yung market
Oo.
nila kasi.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what's tricky with the NBA salary cap.
Mm.
Marami ka talagang iintindihin maraming provision when it comes to the NBA salary cap.
Oo.
That's why the negotiations alone,
Take
parang
long.
it's another season eh. Parang you
Yeah.
have the negotiation
Exciting ang
season, the free
free
agency.
agency.
Forever,
Free agency is the first season, regular season is your second, and then playoffs is the third.
Yeah.
So parang
Mahaba
ganun
rin.
yung nangyayaring cycle ng NBA. That's why it's year round eh.
Yes, I agree.
Also,
Yeah.
with
Just-
salaries going up, I think players before, they were not full-time athletes. They had different jobs. Some were athletes in several sports. So with things getting more competitive, you add what Sir Jay said, I think, is that competition? Anyway, bottom line here, it gets more competitive. So you will pay that player an X amount just to do it full time. Why? To make sure that they deliver every single time. Because if being an athlete is just a side hustle for them, okay, they're not gonna put all their time. They won't spend the wee hours maybe working on their jump shot. So you add that, what Sir Jay said, oh, I'm paying you to do this, so you do it well. So they put a premium on that. They'll pay this person enough, so that could be their day job. Tapos yung kailangan, the agents, they sell you. So you put that together, that's how salaries, I think, in sports have been able to go up and up to where it is today.
Okay, before I close this topic, because we're gonna move to another topic. Actually, I studied masters now in Australia, and one of them is the economy. And they said that the reason why also, which is also another thought, tama din sinasabi ni Lance, tama actually lahat kayo, competitiveness and their job role, agencies and all that. Another one is the average player, aside from LeBron and these superstars, is 7 years, 7 to 8 years. So they have to gain their money within their rookie year to their 7th year. So they have to accumulate that kind of money. Unlike us, where we have a day job where we could actually collect, save money, and do that. Sila, they have 7 years, and if they get injured pa within that 7 years, wala na yung ano nila. Their salary, they could lose their career. So they have to up their salary high enough to help them save enough for their future.
Their lifetime na.
Yes, so that is also an economy of scale. Paano what they call it is the economy of scale. Demand and supply. So that was I studied that 2006, so that was around almost how many years ago, diba? So now it changed. So I'm sure the average player now is more than 7 years. Diba? So because of technology making our bodies better, but normally it was 7 years. Average yan unless you're a superstar. So that's why athletes want to get a higher salary is because they only have X amount of years to play or X amount of years to do their craft.
Tama.
Diba? Iilan lang ang nagiging how many people or how many athletes become analysts in the game? Not a lot. Just a bit. Like in football, Tommy Romo. Diba? In basketball, Reggie Miller and Chris Webber. Diba? I mean, konti lang.
Yes.
Diba? So that's something that we also take in consideration. The economy, agency, and then the performance level, all that. Diba? Okay, now, let's go to the PBA. Right. Is it player-centric?
What about it?
Is it player-centric or organizational centric? If this is a tricky question, we don't want to get into trouble. We could skip all this and go to college. Let's talk about the college.
Actually, mas madaling tanong to sa PBA.
Sige. Sige, ikaw muna. PBA.
It's organization-centric.
Mm-hmm. Yep, agree.
They always want to play for the powerful team. Diba? Pero, it would be a big achievement for you as a player kapag nadala mo yung team mo, which is masasabi natin let's not kid ourselves. There are two factions, di ba? You have the SMC team and the MVP team. And then there are the independent teams, di ba? If you're a player who got signed by the independent team na sabihin natin hindi ganun kalalim yung bulsa, di ganun kalaki yung bank account kumpara doon sa dalawang conglomerates, di ba? If you're able to bring that team to the promised land, able to get them a championship or a win close or a game close, di ba? Big boost din yun di ba? As a player, may mapapatunayan ka sa sarili mo and dun sa league, di ba? And as a player, I think it is the one you are hoping na parang maging player-centric kahit papano sa PBA na, oy, eto ko, napag-champion ko yung team na to, na ito lang yung nakukuha namin, ito lang yung meron kami, pero napag-champion ko. Diba? So, malaking achievement yan if you're that player that belong to an independent group. Tapos, sa pag-champion mo, then that player might become the trigger for the PBA to be a player-centric pagdating sa aspeto na yon.
Okay.
Pero, come on, this organization-centric. Don't have to explain that. Pinahaba ko lang.
Okay. No, Lawrence.
I have to agree, organization-centric. It's not, this is not, the example is not based on a player. Pero just look what happened with Coach Louis Alas. So he had 3 violations. Essentially, he can appeal. He appealed. Parang in one of the interviews with Spin, he mentioned na i-fine nyo na lang ako. Pero still, it was the management's decision to fire him, the Phoenix ownership. So that shows you the power that the ownership or the management has. Also, parang you rarely see a PBA player say that, I want a trade. You don't have that leverage. You don't have that power. It's rare that you see, let's say, Akifer Ravenna mention, I want a trade. I don't want to play with NLEX anymore. It just doesn't happen because the power of ownership is stronger in the PBA. Not that it's strong, not strong in the NBA, pero yung kapit talaga ng ownership in the PBA is stronger than the NBA. And also, I don't hear much about collective bargaining agreements in the PBA. I'm not sure if the contract that they use have been updated for decades. I believe the contract that they still use is like from the 1980s or I don't know, 1990s.
Meron best player incentive, may win game bonus. Tapos yung mga awards, pag nanalo
diba?
ng critical selection, MVP, most improved and all that.
Yeah.
And you can be
sa mga awards.
You can be doing ads also for your parent company, promoting the product.
Oh.
Ayun.
Tsaka, you mentioned conglomerates, how easy it is for them to also swap coaches. So it shows the power of the organization. Parang ano lang yan get one and pass and then you revolve. It's like a revolving. You rotate the coaches. So in the PBA, it's really a far cry from the NBA. It's really organization centric. Kasi eto na lang. The player, the team names carry brands.
Oh.
So doon pa lang, yun pa lang, you know that it's organization and commercial centric. So even if you don't pay attention to anything else I said, it just popped up my mind. The fact that the team names carry brands, you know that they pull much weight in the league, the organizations.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
To spin off everything Sir Jay and Lance said, if you were to make PBA cards, like how we have NBA cards, you will run out of space to put the teams that the player played for because there's movement, right?
In NBA.
No, in the PBA. In the PBA, there's movement so often. Okay.
The trades and all that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. This team is going to change
the card. Hindi ka naleta PBA card.
And you also have to count the change of name of the team itself, even though the players still play for the same team.
Ano ba tawag ng Colombia ngayon?
Terra Firma.
Terra Firma.
Okay,
And
tapos
then there's
yung isa,
Blackwater
Blackwater,
Posse. Oh.
Water Posse.
Bossing.
Oh,
So
tapos
that's
ano?
two.
Chunky Giants. Then what did they become? Did they become Star? Sunday
Star.
Coffee?
Nolias.
Oh,
Ayun, so
just imagine the change of names that the Kia franchise went through for like 3 seasons.
Every
exactly.
con-
Yeah, see, that's pretty fast.
Yeah.
Parang
So
every
Also,
conference
organizational
they have a
standard
new
talaga.
name. Oh,
yeah. So
so that.
as players, you see that they get shipped around easily, and that in this climate that you are
Yeah.
in the PBA. And I think another thing also is that the circle is small because you have much less teams in the PBA as compared to not just the NBA, but developed sports football teams in other countries. So
Yeah.
everyone knows each other. You play in the same venues,
Yeah.
right? You all live in the metro. So it's not like you get traded and then all of a sudden you're gonna have to take an airplane to go to your new team. So it's also a different setup.
Okay. So then the next question before we get to the college. What about loyalty? NBA and the PBA. Is it easier to have a loyalty with the in the PBA because your favorite player could stay there for the next X number of years? And in the NBA, if your favorite player leaves the team, normally they go follow the player or they stick to your team. So where is the stronger loyalty in the league? Anyone can answer first. Sige,
Um,
yeah, sige, Claro.
it stops, I think, with millennials cheering for a team.
So
I can say.
so millennials follow a player rather than a team, you're saying?
I don't know. Oh wait, sorry. No, the millennials are the last group I feel to cheer for teams.
They stuck to a team. Okay. So no
Yes, but
matter
you can.
sino ang
Yeah.
pumasok, okay.
Okay, but okay, millennial yung tail end na dito eh. So you have a bunch of millennials who follow players also.
Okay. Sige.
And then maybe it started out with LeBron. And then I think you go to the younger generations now. Is that Gen Z? And then I follow KD now. I'm a
Yeah.
Warriors fan. And then, now I'm going to Brooklyn. So you talk to the younger guys, and that's what we mainly hear. Oh, they're going to follow wherever Steph Curry goes or whoever. But I think just to point out, the case of Steph Curry, I don't think he's going to be going anywhere.
Yeah, I think he's sticking.
Yeah.
I think he's sticking through with Golden State.
Yeah, but if he moves to another team, I'm sure
A
they
lot of
will
people follow.
they will follow him. Oh, time to buy new jerseys. All right.
Ikaw, Jay.
No, pagdating sa loyalty, when it comes to the fans, sa PBA, what I can say is the fans remain loyal sa team.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter who the player is.
correct. Yeah.
Kasi, pagdating naman sa players, if you're going to ask them about loyalty, well, if they have the choice, they stay with the same team that drafted them. Diba?
Correct. Yeah.
Pero again, like what everyone said about the PBA, it's organization-centric. So it doesn't matter if this ex-Pinoy player played 18 or 19 years for that same franchise, it's gonna get traded in the end, diba? If the management feels like it. Pero pagdating sa fans, I think it really stays with the team. Kasi, like what you guys mentioned na there are a lot of player movements in the PBA na tipong close every conference or every season. Yung isang player nagbabago ng team, di ba?
They won't fit in a player card.
Oh, hirap na. It will not fit a player card. My example kanila, KG Canaleta, he's played for, I think he played for like all the 12 teams in the PBA. I don't know.
Nag-San Miguel ba siya? Hindi siya nag-San Miguel.
Oh,
Yung PBA card ni Canaleta, index card na yun. with all the teams he played for. Yung 4x6 na index card. Ganun dapat kalaki just to cater to all the teams he played for. Yun lang. That for that sole reason alone. Yun lang. Mm-hmm.
Oh. Saka isa pa, the fans are missing the story behind kung bakit lumilipat yung mga players nila. So the fans might be having a hard time catching up, or they're not interested in catching up with that certain player kung ano ba nangyari sa kanya, kung ba't nawala siya sa team. So, para mas madali, I stay with the team.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter kung sino yung player doon. As long as nanalo kami, nagcha-championship kami, good, masaya ako. Panalo yung team ko.
Agree. Okay. Lance?
Tama naman yung sinabi ni Claro at saka ni Jay. Yeah, when it comes to fandom in the PBA, it's still with the team. That's why you have generations of Ginebra fans, regardless of who plays.
Correct.
From the era of like Jaworski to the Baldavids and Marlo Aquinos to the Kagiwas and up until now to the Tenorios, you still have rabid Ginebra fans, regardless of who plays. And that's the dynamic of the PBA. However, I guess loyalty, as always, it falls upon the one who has the dominating presence or who has the power. So in the PBA, it's still the organizations, because even though you played great, but if you don't do it the next conference, chances are you might be on the trading block already. It's just the best players. Not even the best players, because James Yap gets traded everywhere. Willie Miller got traded everywhere. So they are MVPs of the league, but they get traded everywhere. So it really is hard to be loyal in the PBA, no matter how much you say that you want to play for one team. Well, if they want to ship you for business reasons, they have to ship you. And we see it even with the top players. Bihira na yung mga tipong Alvin Patrimonio and a Mark Agiwa who played for one franchise. It's rarely heard of now. In the NBA, the loyalty lies on the player.
Hmm.
Naaalagaan ba ako ng franchise na to? Are they building a team around me that is capable of winning the championship or winning or build a dynasty essentially? So the power of loyalty lies within the player in the NBA. In the PBA, it lies within the management and the organization.
Galing, no? It's two different, no? Stark difference, polarized, no? Now, so critical and not critical, pero masaya tong topic. Last
And
topic.
now, the moment
Collegiate
we've all been
UAAP.
waiting for.
Yeah.
We don't see it in the NCAA in the States, right? The NCAA, US NCAA. Here, the college teams. What are your thoughts on player recruitment movements? Is it school-centric or / education-centric? Or is it player-centric? Lance, I'll go with you.
Ayoko mauna. Ayoko mauna.
Is it school education or player-centric?
I look at it as player centric now. It wasn't the case before. It just so happened that again we'll go back to leverage. It's the players who have the leverage now. Parang before, it's unheard of for a college player to have an agent. Back to the time of like, let's say, I remember Enrico Villanueva's time, ganyan, mga ganyan. Like,
2000,
turn of
early
the millennium.
2000s.
Parang it's rare to hear a collegiate player have an agent. Now, parang almost everybody has an agent, and they're proud of posting the achievements of their players on their social medias. We'll not mention names, but we know who it is. Ayun. So, because of social media, they have the power to voice out their opinion. It's a more open world right now. It's easy to spread the news. It's easy to get noticed if you have something blunt or something notorious or something funny to say.
Yeah.
It's easy to get viral or get noticed. So that's why the tide has turned. The players have the power now. That's why it's not surprising anymore to see one player playing for one season with his university, and then all of a sudden a whip of the wind comes in, and then they transfer to another. It would be okay for them to sit 1 year in residency because it will help them recuperate their bodies from all the injuries and the wear and tear. So they'll focus on their studies if they are focusing on it. That's another matter for discussion. And the bottom line is they all have, the best players have pro aspirations, all of them, the top ones. So it doesn't matter now if you really play 4 years or 5 years. What matters is the last year that you played in the UAAP. That's where you're judged at. So
Yeah.
kung eventually 3 seasons ka lang naglaro sa UAAP pero you had a maximum of 5, pag nagkaroon ka ng residency twice, you'll be judged at the last year. Yun naman yung leverage mo. Yun yung
Yes.
ano mo eh. So whether it's 1 season or 3 seasons or 5, what matters if you have pro aspirations is the last season. So it doesn't really matter if you max out your collegiate career now. That's why it puts much power onto the player as of this moment.
Yeah. Parang ano, no, rather than changing course, changing school. Diba? Okay, Claro.
Changing colors, ganun lang. Oh.
Magiging maroon ako or red. Okay, Claro. Last word
Ginuuso
before we
mag-shift
close.
ng course pala.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so it's player-centric talaga. But of course, back in the day, it was more of school-centric. You can say player-centric because you're used to hearing about players transferring schools. That was really rare before. Players transferring schools. Like I remember when Mika Vainio transferred to UP, and that was a bit unheard of because normally back in that day, as far as I know, it was ride or die with your school. And then now you see that schools are really competitive in trying to get players here and there. So they're also coming up with competitive packages. So that's something that players consider. But of course, part of that package is also the education. Maybe anong course ang hinahabol. There are some players who straight up say that, okay, this is the only school I considered just because of the course, because they're good here. Or other players will consider, okay, maybe I can take this course in this school or this course in that school. Maybe they're more open with maybe potential plans after college. So it's player centric, but their personal priorities can somewhat change. Some talaga hinahabol yung course, or some people they're after maybe not exactly the course, but how good is their basketball program.
Okay. Jay?
It's player-centric, but it's not supposed to be player-centric. I hate it to be player-centric. It's supposed to be, tama si Claro. For some reason, di mo mapipigilan yung player na lumipat because malamang nga, yung educational track na hinahanap ng player is wala dun sa school na kinabibilangan niya. Diba? Pero, come on, let's acknowledge the fact that especially this pandemic period, players transferred to different schools because of reason outside of what we talk about here. Diba? And for reason that is not really acceptable for their age right now. Sabihin natin, not for the reason, for commercial reasons. Sige, yun na lang isasabihin ko.
Correct.
Pero, looking at the perspective of the players, this I can say. Players right now understand perhaps that their skills presently are more advanced than the skills of their players that their same age in the past, 20 or 30 years ago. That I have to agree na mas magagaling yung mga players ngayon. They're more athletic, they're more gifted, they were trained at that early age, obviously. Kasi for guys like 15 or 17 years old, 18 years old, makakita ka na bato-bato yung katawan. Nakala, high school pa lang sila, pero yung katawan nila parang katawang nagtatrabaho na sa rice mill ng 2-3 taon, di ba? And makita mo mga teenagers, pero yung height nila parang, teka, sigurado 15 ka lang. Di ba? So, yes, the players might be coming at that point na they're more gifted in this generation. And to Lance's premise kanina na they're using it as a leverage, 'di ba? Pero again, I'm an old school guy kasi. You have to check their priorities at that age and yun yung mag-aral, 'di ba? So, let's stick to that first, 'di ba? Darating na yung the blessings will come later on, 'di ba? Pero at that age, they have to focus. They have to focus on the right things. That's all I can say.
Tama yan,
Yeah,
tama
that's
yan.
true. That's
Oh.
actually
I
very
remember,
true.
I remember before, if I may add, the first incident of transferring that really created much controversy in the UAP was the BJ Manalo
Yes, I was
incident.
just gonna say CBJ. Yeah.
Parang he was
Yeah.
crucified when he transferred. Parang they were saying statements na nasilaw ka sa pera,
Yeah.
nabayaran, ganyan. That's where it started.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then parang throughout the years, parang there were trickles of transfers. It was just like in the past 5 years or so that it escalated talaga na parang it became a normal thing already.
Yeah.
Na parang, sige, transfer ka dyan, ganyan. Sit down 1 year, tapos pahinga ka, tapos laro ka ulit, ganyan.
Oh.
Yet
Yeah,
that
for
BJ
context.
Manalo was unheard of. Like everybody was
Yes.
saying it was so unheard of. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sige,
and for
ano?
context, BJ Manalo's transfer was a big deal from Ateneo High School to DLSU.
Oh.
So that was people found it like a big deal already.
Loyalty.
When now it's common already to see people transfer from one college to another.
Yeah.
Which can be quite difficult in the academic perspective alone. When you transfer, you have to credit your courses here and there. You have to
Yun nga
filter
eh.
and see.
But parang ang dali ngayon eh, no? Ang hirap
Education sometimes is secondary.
mag-shift nga ng course, napakahirap. Shift pa ng
And
school.
they all have magic, the schools, in one way or another. Yeah. They're
Harry
all Harry
Houdini.
Potter. They have magic. Yes.
Harry Houdini ang teachers. Minsan.
They have their magics. They have their magic spells
Yeah.
when it comes to the numbers in the grading system. Man.
Hopefully it changes.
Requirements.
Hopefully it changes. But basically, the good thing is that we're still entertained by these athletes, whether it be in the UAP, the men's and the NCAA here in the Philippines, whether it's the PBA, whether it's the PFL, and we go international, whether it's the Champions League and NBA and the MLB. We're all entertained because we love sports, right? So long as it doesn't change any kind of like rules that messes the spirit of the game, we're fine, right? We're okay. So, but basically, before we close, I'll try to shout out for the other podcast, our friends that are also doing their podcast. So, the Sports Nook, Isa Chong and Mike Valera. Correct? Did I get it right?
Oh,
Michael
maganda
B?
yung maganda yung maging guest nila sa on
Yeah.
the next episode. Favorite
Okay.
nila si pag-usapan.
So hopefully, yeah. So the next episode will be good. It's gonna be a good guest. Right? So let's work on that. We also have For the Love of the Game. That's Ken Pangilinan and Dino Lee, right? And we also have Standing Room Only with Javi Palanya. We have Bounce Pass from Mike Perez. What else? The Gold Diggers, who's they've been shouting, giving.
Shout out, Gold Diggers.
Yeah, shout out to the Gold Diggers.
And Carlos Pineda.
Yeah, and Robbie De Vera. Thank you so
Robbie De
much.
Vera.
Yeah, thank you so much. Who else? Who else should we thank for the AEOB? Or I'm not sure if we're allowed to, but I'm going to say it. Yeah,
Yeah, but thank you, Gold Diggers, Carlos.
Salamat,
It's we took it as a compliment when you said that who the heck are we as a nerd fest.
Yeah, I love it. I love being called a nerd. I love it.
Sports nerd, emphasis on
Sports
sports.
nerd, yeah.
When it comes to sports, it's the best compliment you can get,
Yeah.
especially
We're
for
called sports nerds, folks. Thank you so much, Carlo Pineda, and the Gold Diggers. Who else should we mention?
Ito pala,
Anyone else?
shout out to all the people that engage in our social media, dun sa poll na ginawa natin, and then on those who participated in the bracket and making their own brackets. Special shout out to you guys. And of course, to all the listeners ng Who the Heck Are We? Special shout out to you guys.
Yeah, so as before we close, you could hear us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, and please like our page, Who the Heck Are We? And also our Instagram, Who the Heck Are We PH. Signing off for this week, and we will see you again next week. Again, Who the Heck Are We? Boom!